Good afternoon, and welcome to Naturally Chicago's webinar, Co-Manufacturing, How to Find, Communicate, and Audit. I'm happy to introduce my colleague, Greg Keller, Naturally Chicago's Senior Consultant, to start the program.
Hey, Bob, thank you so much. Hey, since in the last 2 years since I've been working with Naturally Chicago with brands, the number one question I get is around co-packing, how to find, how to work with, how to, basically the whole co-packing question is probably the one I get asked most frequently. So we've been fortunate enough to work with Will Madden, our current board chair and founder of Whole Brain Consulting, who was able to help us pull together really an all-star panel of experts in the packing arena. So with that, let me turn it over to Will. Just one quick note, we do have a Q&A button. We're going to go through kind of a number of key areas that we think will be of interest to all our members. If you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A section, and towards the end of the webinar, we'll get to as many questions as we possibly can. So with that, and Will is muted.
Sorry, you froze up for a second for me, so I was like, "Oh God!" And then I saw Pete move. I'm like, "Okay, not a computer issue on my side. Good." Um, so thank you, everyone. William Madden. I'm the one of the co-founders of Whole Brain Consulting. We do outsourced operations for food companies, roughly 1,300 clients. We've been at it about a decade. I'm joined today with Pete, Monique, and Mike. They're all co-packers from varying industries and varying sizes. I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves here real quick. Again, any of your questions, please don't use the chat function, use the Q&A function. Okay, then next
Thank
slide. Monique?
thank you, Will. My name is Monique Kendall. I work for Blue Chip Group in Salt Lake City, Utah. We deal with powders, mostly food and supplements. We also have a beverage division who strictly deals in RTDs and aluminum formats. As far as powders, we work with canisters, stand-up pouches, vertical pouches, sachets, and stick packs.
Hi, my name is
Mike?
Mike Wiglars. I'm the CFO here at the Fresh Factory. We are a food and beverage contract manufacturer located outside of Chicago. We focus on clean label, better for you items and have been in business for just over 10 years.
Pete?
Hi, I'm Peter Kokinos with Palermo's Pizza. I oversee our commercialization, our revenue, our marketing for our organization. We are a frozen food manufacturer headquartered out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Great. So if everybody's ready, let's dig in with the first question. How do brands typically find you? Mike?
Yeah, well, if it doesn't come through Will and Whole Brain Consulting, uh, I would say
Thank you.
there's you're welcome for the plug. Um, Formulators, consultants, kind of like the industry, the network will get referrals from folks that have worked with us over the years, OEMs. But we've really kicked up our SEO and presence on social media, specifically LinkedIn. So a lot of folks will come through those channels.
Yeah, and I would add to that and just say for us, a lot of it, our contacts come through our website or additional brokers.
What I'd add to the past two comments is our company does a number of trade shows like the PLMA that comes up in November and many others. So a number of times we're approached at those trade shows by folks who are looking or know someone who's looking for co-manufacture in those areas, or at least looking for a referral. Typically, some of the other ways is, people get a referral and then they reach out to me via LinkedIn, or they, somehow get my cell number, they give me a call, or they call the office and they end up talking to our support staff, and then they get routed to a salesperson or myself.
Right. And I guess my second question is, there are preferable ways to approach you?
If you can get a warm intro, I would say that that generally has the most credibility and goes the furthest, and that's what we've experienced over the years.
And Pete.
I think I would just agree with Mike. You know, if you can get an introduction by a broker, you're going to be in a much better position for our time.
All right. And I'm sure all of you have a gatekeeping process that you're utilizing.
Ours is typically through our website, so there's a form that you fill out. And then if you're a good fit, one of our salespeople will reach out.
Yeah, we've really used the web form kind of strategy. We've refined it over the years to sort of boil the ocean down to the four questions that our salesperson would ask you anyways. Do you have a formula? Are you in market? What kind of volumes are we talking about? Like, what is the item itself? That's kind of like the first line of the defense there.
We're very similar to what Mike and Monique said. I think the thing that we like to also understand is why do you think you're going to be successful with the item that you're going to go to market with? Just understanding a little bit about your market plan and your marketing plan also helps us understand what you're trying to bring to market and why you think you'll be successful.
Okay. We'll move on to question number 3. Um, are there ways that people reach out that make it less likely for you to respond? I know that a lot of brands, when they come to us, are saying, "Oh, well, I never get a response from a co-packer. They, I feel like I just fill out forms and I get ignored." Um, so, what are some of the ways that people? What are some of the ways that people can work to where they actually are most likely to get a positive response?
All caps? No, I'm just joking. Uh, uh, it's the emails that they start with, I'm thinking about this idea. I've been kicking this around. I want to start this sort of brand or company. Um, when you get a cold email like that from the website, it's just hard to really see the value of that with, and dedicate resources to that.
You mean something like, I have an idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need a co-packer. Great.
Yeah, I think when there's no details and just a vague idea, it's really hard to spend time trying to vet an opportunity that the prospective customer may not even have nailed down at the point of the email.
My favorite one is that we have a family recipe that everybody has to have. So I seem to get that one a lot. But it's just about preparation. I mean, your time is valuable when you call us or you reach out to us, and our time is valuable. So the better prepared you are with what you're trying to achieve and what the purpose is, the more productive our communication is going to be. So, but my favorite one is we have a family recipe that is incredible, and we need to bring it to market.
About how many emails, phone calls, stuff like that, different ways how many projects do people reach out to you guys on average a year for?
I I'd probably say, Will, that we probably get somewhere in the neighborhood of over 1,000 reach outs for folks that are looking for certain things to be manufactured. So about 1,000 seems to be the right number that I typically take a look at because we do have a system that catalogs things and says, who reached out and what they were looking for.
Monique, how about you?
I'm sorry, Will, I can barely hear you. Can you
Oh,
repeat that?
sorry about that. About how many people try and reach out to you guys a year?
I would say probably right around 1,000 as well.
Probably,
So in
probably.
case anybody's wondering, that's a lot of people to get a hold of.
Yeah, it's the web, it can be two or three each business day pretty easily. And that's on top of what may be the more credible ones coming from consultants or formulators that you worked with in the past that you have a relationship with brokers, other types of things. So it's substantial. It can be overwhelming.
That's my general feel. We get probably about the same reaching out to us. So um, I guess we'll move on to number 4. This is around communication and relationships before and after onboarding. So I guess how often should a brand be communicating with your team, and what's most helpful for them to share?
I think for us, once, the quote's been accepted and the project's been outlined, our team really likes to have a weekly communication call just to make sure we're closing all gaps and meeting all the launch timelines laid out. Um, I think that, and in the beginning, until the quote's accepted, um, I probably talk to a prospective customer, on the initial call, and then if there's any follow-ups after that. But I think after, the onboarding starts, for us personally, we like to get you connected with our team and stay close to the project on a weekly basis.
I think from our perspective, we're very similar. We want to hear from you on a weekly basis. But one thing that I stress is we know we live in a world that doesn't necessarily find a rational pattern. So if there are things that come up that are unusual or are going to change your timeline, we ask for the folks to reach out to us, even if it's not part of that weekly call. And we'll do the same because sometimes a material or something isn't available, or a supplier will surprise us as we're working on a project for our folks. And I just had one today on an item that was supposed to be coming in, and the manufacturer of this raw material had a problem with the casing on it, and now they're delaying the delivery of their item by over 8 weeks. So that's going to affect a startup on a couple new items on there. So these things happen. Not that we expected it to happen, but we'll communicate out of the norm when these things happen.
Not one of mine, I hope. Um, and how about before they're a customer?
Before somebody's a customer, there's this like vetting out process, right? And it's about discovery and making sure that it's a fit. I think the most important thing is just to make sure that you're making the most of the time that when you do communicate, right? So, a co-packer to really understand if they can make your product, if they'll hit your price target, et cetera. We need spec sheets, we need process cards, we need to understand the formula. Coming prepared with that to the table early on and being responsive when you get those sorts of questions really puts you in a position to move forward quickly. I think what hurts is where like there's this radio silence and it drags on for weeks, and then you start to wonder like, is it serious? Are they still interested? That's where I see a lot of things fall apart is just the inability to get all the information.
There's no rhyme or reason, Will, on how someone's going to reach out. But the one thing that I stress is that whatever the understood follow-ups are, timing and phone calls. It's just important that, the folks who are looking for the service honor whatever they've said they're going to do. And, if you can't deliver what you said you were going to deliver, document or paperwork, whatever, just call and say, hey, I need an extra week.
Question number 5. Which brand relationships work the best for you, and which ones tend to be the most challenging? And I know, having worked with all of you guys, that you have great stories for both of them. So it's probably something you're all going to want to go with. We'll start with Monique on that one.
Well, I think it just to expand on what was said on the last question, coming to us with, your formulas and your format and your timeline locked are very important to a good relationship, and makes hitting the timelines very much easier. As far as the ones that are the most challenging is somebody that comes with an idea and they place the PO and you've ordered the materials and they go, oh, but wait, we have changed our minds. We now want this in a stick pack versus a sachet, or we want to remove 5 ingredients. Let's go back to R&D. I don't think that makes us very successful. So I definitely discourage people from, taking that route when at all avoidable.
From our perspective, the best relationships for us are the ones where our customers are clear, concise, they know what they want. I think, very, very similar to what you guys just heard. The most challenging for us is usually scale. Our manufacturing assets are larger, and I can't tell you how many calls I get where the scale just doesn't fit our manufacturing outputs. And they're great concepts. They make a lot of sense. They just don't fit our lines and our output.
And
Yeah,
my final.
we're working with somebody when it's a moving target is extremely difficult, right? So you start off with your scope here, and over the course of conversations, you maybe to Monique's point, the formula changes, or they're actually, is represented that the formula is done, but it's really not. It's really not done, or the individual may not be happy with it. Understanding all of that up front and early on really allows folks to set the expectations, earlier on, and build, a plan and a schedule to get there. So that, yeah, the ideal partners, they know what they want. They've got a timeline, they've got a plan, they know where their costs need to be to scale their business, both in the short term and in the long term when they get to peak scale, for example. Like those are the folks that you really enjoy working with.
Well, and I'll just add to what you said, Mike, as far as costs go. It's always best if the brand can do a little homework before bringing it to the co-packer, because, I get so many inquiries where they have no idea what their product is going to cost. And, if you can get around that, that's definitely advisable.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's one of.
Yeah, honestly, it's the folks that hire the additional consulting resources that I find who are in the best position to be successful, right? They come to you with like a package, right? And just put it on your desk and here you go. Here's everything you need to know about what we're looking for. It is tremendously valuable. And generally those people also speak like the co-man language, if you will, and understand the rules of engagement and MOQs, and can help guide the prospective customer through that process as well.
Yeah, and likely they've vetted the manufacturers they're going to send you to, which is helpful and saves the brand and the contract manufacturer a lot of time.
Great. just a reminder, everyone, we're using the Q&A, not the chat. So if you do have a question, put it in the Q&A, not in the chat function. Moving on to the next question. Oh, well, I think we hit that one inadvertently. If anyone wants to add anything around what frustrates you the most, feel free. But with that, we'll move on to number 7. Pete, this one should be for you. What does your ideal brand partner look like?
So our ideal partner is just someone that after the product's been developed, you understand, all the pieces that are moving forward. There's a clear, concise plan for the ramp up. And, they tell us, hey, these 20 retailers are picking up our item, or these 5 retailers are picking up our item. We need so much in our inventory by day one. We need so much in for the first 6 months. So that's our ideal partner. And certainly because we deal with this ourselves all the time, we realize that things change. A retailer might push back a planogram, and originally it was supposed to be in February, then all of a sudden it's in April. So just great communication saying, hey, we need a little less than we thought. We're going to push it back in 90 days. But as much advance notice as we can get, and understanding what the ramp ups look like, and understanding what you need in inventory, and understanding what your reorder process is. And again, no different than what you guys have heard, just having your homework done and understanding what you need and how you need it helps us. Sometimes it's very difficult for us when we get surprises to be able to react and be able to jump through a lot of hoops in a very short window. So if you don't tell us and all of a sudden you say, hey, I need 3 times what I normally needed within a week or two, we might not be able to get the materials, the packaging, whatever else it is. So understanding that time horizon and that ramp up, and then just communicating, we know stuff happens.
Absolutely. And I would just add to that, as far as, for me, having a partner that's very responsive is important. There's nothing worse than missing a timeline because, you went out of town and you didn't get the documents back in time. And forecasting. I cannot say enough about forecasting. I mean, that makes sure that, we're prepared for the product when it's coming in, when you need it, and we're better set up to help you succeed.
Yeah, I would echo forecasts as well. It's shocking the number of times we ask for a forecast and just don't get it. It really helps to have it. We're trying to manage the capacity and utilization at the plant level, and smooth demand in certain instances. Some products are seasonal. Costco is just extremely lumpy of a kind of production run. Having those forecasts in advance really help us manage the whole business so all of our customers can be successful.
Great. Let's moving on to question number 8. So we know that you guys all get about 1,000. Well, sounds like Mike's on the light side with only 750 a year, but Mike's working on that. He's trying to get those those numbers up. Um, you have to decide, who you're working with. I'm pretty sure none of you are launching 1,000 projects a year. I mean, like, hell, I only launched 350. So, what are the criteria that you use when you're deciding which brands to work with?
Yeah, so ironically enough, our leadership started off in like venture. And so we think of our portfolio of customers like a venture portfolio, right? Like we started off as a small co-packer and we launched many smaller brands. We're counting on them to grow with us. And so we'll look at if we think it's a sustainable sort of relationship, whether that's price, et cetera. Is the brand differentiated? Like what makes them stand out in the market? We personally don't produce commodities. We don't make mayo, we make vegan aioli, right? So like what makes you different? Do you have a growth plan? Like Are you looking to grow dramatically? And are you prepared for that? Whether that could be money, a team with the expertise. Those are the things that we consider.
We we work with typically fairly large scale. Typically, people who come to us want national distribution for their products. So typically, we work with large CPG, or we work with private equity that is got a pretty grand plan to grow. We work with a lot of retailers throughout the U.S. We're the largest co-packer of private label pizza products in the United States. So we work with a number of retailers across the country, and food service. We have a food service arm, so we're now beginning our work in the food service area. We're providing key components to food service establishments that are looking to work with us. Our biggest challenge is again just size because our lines are set up for scale. And while we can start something at a small scale and we can work with that for a period of time, it's difficult to maintain that if we can't see some growth. But if you're dealing with the large retailers and you're looking for scale and you're looking for a credible co-manufacturer in our space, that works well for us. And I think the other positive too is that 98% of the retailers that you're going to work with already know us. So they know if you're working with us, that's going to give you immediate credibility and saying, oh, that company's going to do it for you. Well, then I trust that it's going to get to the shelf and it's going to be the right item on there. So it helps build your credibility also in working with us because of our reputation out there. So usually it's size, and we've had ideas that have crossed our desk that we really, really like, and sometimes we license the idea and we take it to market because we have a retail arm also. So we have a retail arm, we have a co-pack arm, we have a food service arm. So we've done that also where we see an idea we really really like, and we talk about a licensing event. And this year we launched two licensed items that were pretty exciting. We launched a Cheez-It pizza on a Cheez-It cracker that we rolled out across the whole entire country, and we also partnered with Ragu and rolled out a pizza that has Ragu pizza sauce on them. So that's something that we did. We rolled it out. We worked a licensing arrangement. And then because of our connections and our distribution, we took it nationally. So there's a lot of different options to work with us. It doesn't have to be just one way or another.
For us, at Blue Chip Group, we really work with emerging and growing brands. We try to stay away from startups unless the trajectory is really looks good. But really our primary focus is, after you've taken it to market and you've grown out of your current co-packer, we're that bridge until you get somewhere like Pete.
About like probably also needs to be in your wheelhouse or adjacent to your wheelhouse as well.
Agreed. I mean, if somebody walks into me and says, Peter, make soup for me, I'm going to look at him. I'm like, I'm the wrong guy. I can't make soup. And that does
Mike's,
happen.
oh, I know it does. Mike's like, I'll make your soup for you though.
There you go.
We
We'll
might
call
need,
Mike.
yeah.
Michael build you a plant.
Well, we'll partner with you to put in a line to make soup.
Awesome.
Oh man, sorry. Number 9. So this one was a little bit of a shift. Um, uh, and how often do brands audit you? And what do those audits normally look like? And this is perfect because you have Pete, who's very large. You have Monique, who's sort of in the middle, and you have Mike, who's in the mid, but takes brands starting and growing them. So with that, I think I'll have Pete go first, then Monique, then Mike, if that works for you guys.
Sure. Thanks. Well, we're audited all the time. I mean, I'm actually surprised if I look at our audit and quality schedules that we don't have an audit going on in a particular week. Almost every week, we have auditors that are in our buildings, and our audits or folks that visit us, we have people audits where We have folks that come in to talk to our folks, are they being treated fairly? Do they get their overtime? So we have those types of audits. We have, of course, quality audits, even though we have our own, quality audit that we do as an organization. We have quality audits that are done by retailers, by manufacturers. That happens there. We have people come in and ask for financial audits, and they come in to say, "Hey, are you guys, you going to be in business tomorrow?" And we understand that because we've seen companies go bankrupt overnight. So, we have audits going on almost every week of the year, and we're always prepared for them, and we have a team ready to deal with those audits.
Monique?
For us, I would say that most brands will come in and do their own audit with our quality team on the initial, production. And then typically, we'll have informal visits, but most of our customers will depend on our SQF and NSF certifications to validate what they need.
Yeah, generally most folks and retailers are just concerned with our SQF audit. There might be a paper audit that they do in the conference room. Maybe they walk the floor briefly, but we've had no people audits to date.
So moving on to question number 10. Now, this is one that I get asked all the time. I need a second co-man, and we're at $2 million, and worried about all my eggs being in one basket. And are there times where you recommend that companies use multiple co-men for the same product? And this one, I think, we'll start with Pete on that one.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly understand having a safe supply chain is important. From our standpoint, we run three very large facilities, so we have redundancy within our own system itself. But we certainly understand when, we have a very large piece of business and the branded company or the owner of the brand is looking for a secondary source, and we'll either work within our four walls and showing them how we have redundancy, or we'll work with a secondary supplier and actually partner with them to make sure that that customer feels comfortable. We want that customer to be successful, and we want the supply chain to be successful. So we don't have an issue when those come up. As long as we're meeting our minimums, and they're looking for a secondary source, we're open to that.
Monique?
For us, most of our customers, with them being emerging and growing brands, we typically support them, and they're not in a position where we would recommend splitting their supply chain or complicating their orders by splitting to two co-mans. We're always willing to support it, but it's not typically something we've really had to recommend a whole lot.
We've been fortunate that given our location, central in the Midwest, that most folks in the kind of small to medium size just hang out with one co-man. So we've been blessed with geography to kind of be able to service both coasts, and fortunately there's a enormous amount of national like warehouse brands, RJW, et cetera, right out front here. So we generally, per Monique's comment, recommend people stick with one. It's just the supply chain and the materials, like sending pallets of raw materials to two different coasts. It's difficult. And so we've actually, because of we have 9 different production lines now that range from liquid beverages to dips and condiments to sachets to food service pouches. We've actually had a lot of our accounts like centralize more with us so that they can bring in more raw materials and send it all to one spot. So we've been fortunate to kind of be the co-man for all of the stuff for certain accounts.
Yeah, I mean, when I get the conversation, when I had the question asked of me, what I say is the vast majority of the people who talk to me when they need a second co-man will be slightly after when they've sold their brand. Um, Really, where it comes in value that I've seen the value has been when you have hero products that sell like wildfire, yet you have these secondary items that do not have those same velocities. So you might have like a Pete who's running your high volume SKUs because he's extremely efficient at a high volume SKU. And then your dogs and cats are run with a second supplier. So somebody who's smaller, who, Pete, $1 million, great. Some other guys, $1 million is a hell of a business for them. So being able to, cost average your products, but also being able to have those niche items produced by a guy who's designed to produce a niche item. I mean, if you need something that's going to run once every 6 months with Pete, he doesn't need that item. He's not going to get good at it, right? But there's another guy who's going to run that once a week, at that same volumes, and it's really good business for him, and he's going to get really good at making it. Hey, buddy. Yeah, me too. So
Hey, Will.
that's where my is. Sorry, go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, one thing that I'll add, Will, is we actually work with our customers where they have some SKUs that are real small volumes. We'll actually handle all the details with a smaller co-man. So they'll come to us, we have the real big runners, and then they'll say, hey, could you make X for us? And the volume is Y, and it's using some similar raw materials. We'll actually work with the smaller Coleman. We'll actually have the item made there, and then we'll have it come back into our distribution system. And then that way, that person then can have the whole thing on one truck or shipped on one truck. So we provide that as a service, and it's a win-win for our customer because it's one less headache for them. It's a win for us because we're still able to consolidate and work with that. So it works out really, really well. And to your point, some of these co-men, this is great business for them. And for us, providing that service makes things easier for our customer.
You also have like 144 of your own trucks, right?
We have 144 route trucks that we
Yeah.
use in the Midwest that deliver to grocery stores, but we typically ship 200 plus full truckloads of finished product across the country to retailers and CPG out of our own warehouses. So we have a fair amount of efficiency, and we're in the middle of the country, so going east, going west, going south is fairly efficient for us.
Yeah. So client's gonna have you make it a smaller producer, bring it into you, and then it's full truckloads going out from you to the retailer, and you can do some warehouse and helps with the warehousing and everything like that as well for directions.
Yep. Yep. And also, if it's going to a particular retailer, since we're shipping to almost every retailer across the country, that's another advantage that our customers can take advantage of us because we're shipping to every big retailer. Say, hey, retailer X is going to carry the item. Then that item can go on the same truck that we're already shipping to that retailer at all the distribution centers. So because of scale, we can be pretty nimble and really help out that customer.
Yeah. Perfect. So, anybody else have anything they want to add in there? All right, let's get to question number 11, which is another question that I get asked quite frequently. Capital investment with their contract manufacturers. And I believe we probably have different unique views across this group on that one. So with that, Mike, you want to start with it, and then we'll go with Monique, and we'll go with Pete.
Sure. Um, our prerogative generally is that we want to own the equipment in the plant that we maintain, that we insure. We have over our history gotten pretty clever and created some interesting structures, the partnership opportunities where a brand may contribute part or all of an asset, and depending on the deal, they might see some upside, like lower tolling, given all the direct labor savings. Um, it's been an interesting way for us to grow our business and grow the business with those accounts. It is a very capital intensive business. And again, we're only 10 years into this thing. And so we look at those as opportunities. If something is extremely specialized to an account, like I literally can't use it for anybody else, I may not want to own it. The customer might just put it on the floor. But that's kind of how we look at things.
Monique.
The way we've done it in the past, is when brands come to us, customers come and say, hey, we would love, to produce this product and we want to run X amount. And they're looking for, a different type of machinery. Obviously, we need to evaluate, manufacturing space and feasibility and all of that. But what's most helpful for our company personally is, we will typically let the capital investment come from the brand, and then we will rebate them back as, and it incentivizes them as well, with their volumes. So the more volume they do, the faster they get the money back. And we usually do that with a no interest contract.
Pete,
We
you and I have done it once together.
Yeah, you will. Well, we've got some great stories. So, we've invested seven figures into lines for large CPGs, and we have different arrangements depending on who they are and what they're looking for. We typically in any given year will spend seven figures reinvesting in all our buildings, maintaining equipment and adding equipment. So if there's something really specialized, I'm only going to use it for company X. We'll work something out. Sometimes we purchase it and then we amortize it into the cost over a period of time. Sometimes the customer purchases it and they ship it into our facility and, we end up using it. So we just kind of look at it from that perspective. And, depending on the investment, the risk, who the customer is, we have lots of different ways of working out how to mitigate that risk with that specialized equipment over a period of time or one quickly. I mean, it just really depends. I mean, there's just so many ways to take care of that. We look at it from multiple directions.
And Pete, you normally buy the equipment, then amortize it though. Back to
Typically,
the
yeah,
customer.
typically we'll purchase the equipment. We like to own the equipment within our own buildings, and then we'll amortize it over, the product line. And then once the amortization is paid for, then that comes off the customer's cost. So once that equipment's paid for, we're still using it. They'll obviously see a discount on that product.
And you have catch-up payments, and you do apply an interest charge, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, if they're behind, we have agreements that says, hey, if your volume was half of what you thought, we have a reconciliation period where they can catch up. We ask for a payment to help catch that up.
Alrighty. And question number 12. This one's near and dear to my heart, especially since I've worked on projects that fastest was 30 days and longest was 3 years. Um, Before you agree to take on a client, what's the fastest way a brand can shorten the launch cycle? This one's open to whoever wants to jump first, because y'all, I'm sure, have different ways to look at it.
I'll jump in quick. Well, so if somebody comes to us and they have to go really, really fast, if they can use materials that I have in-house, that definitely shortens the cycle. If I don't have to go out and, source all kinds of unique raw materials. And, because we're such a large manufacturer, I have over 1,000 different ingredients. So hopefully we can find something that's going to work for them. So if they're able to use something that's in scale, that's going to help out. Having their artwork and packaging ready. We're a USDA facility, so for those of you who aren't accustomed to working with a USDA facility, depending on the claims you make on the packaging, I might have to submit into the USDA for an approval on packaging. If you're not making any claims, I might be able to actually have a local approval done, but that takes time. So having the artwork complete, understanding what the formulas look like, those are things that can definitely shorten the cycle. Our ability to get through an agreement as quickly as possible the faster, Will, you and I have been through this many times, the faster we can get to an agreement, the faster we can get to an understanding. That's going to shorten the cycle and it's going to really help streamline that approach. So somebody who's done this before, like yourself, who can help the customer, really helps out because you're helping them prepare for those calls, and they're not coming to a call with someone like me and they're totally green, and I'm asking for things and they're like, "What do you want?" You at least have prepped them for that.
Yeah, I just had the call with that guy that we were talking about earlier, where I was like, he needs this to tell you that. So
That's right.
that's who keeps off the hook here. Uh, so real life example there. Monique.
I think the most important part is to be responsive. So if there are questions or paperwork that we need, just being cognizant of the fact that we can't move forward without your help. So you can be your own best advocate by just responding quickly.
Yeah, and arriving with that, like the packet, the dossier, if you will, the spec sheets, the bombs, the processing steps. Um, if you can come to the table prepared with that information, it eliminates tons of questions. It makes the time my team spends on commercializing it that much more efficient. We don't have to go chasing down, is it this lemon juice or that lemon juice? Is it frozen or aseptically processed? All those little things actually do matter when it comes to the cost, the flavor profile, the quality of the item. That helps dramatically. Otherwise, the most common reason for something dragging on is, to Pete's point, it's the artwork and the contract.
All right. Um, let's take a break for announcements from
Yeah, good.
Brent.
So, well, first, thank you so much. And we do have a couple of events coming up that we want to make you aware of within the Naturally Chicago world. On the 18th, we have our Women in CPG conference coming up. And then on the 30th, Naturally Chicago, with a couple of other chapters, are hosting a frontline fair trade. Seth Goldman, who was at our pitch event a couple of months ago, will be at this event also. So a couple of really strong events coming up to make you aware of. All of that information. Registration can be found on our website. So we have had a couple of questions come in. One of them that a number of people have asked is around the best way brands can find the right packer. Pete, early on, you mentioned trade shows. There's AI groups that can find stuff now. What is, many of our brands are a little bit smaller. What is the best way to find, the right co-packer, today?
You know, Greg, I'm going to come back to what I mentioned before. There of course are some trade shows. The only disadvantage about the trade shows are you're waiting till that period of time. So, PLMA is in November. So if you're looking for a co-packer in January, do you really want to wait all the way till November before you, attend the trade show to try to find someone? So typically what we tell people, if they don't have a lot of experience in our industry, you go to someone like Will and you say, "Hey, I'm looking for this type of co-packer. Help me find him." And somebody like Will, who's working with hundreds of folks like ourselves, can usually guide someone and say, "Hey, you need this and this, and here are," and Will give you two or three suggestions. He's not just going to tell you one suggestion that's out there. So typically somebody who understands the industry and who can navigate that is a big, big help, because even if you do your own research and you decide to go online and you Google or however you get your information today, there's still lots of questions. Just because you look at somebody's website doesn't necessarily mean that they can manufacture that product for you. So typically that's why someone like Will can cut a lot of time down and save you a lot of time. So if you start figuring out what it's costing you for the hour to look for someone like me, and then you look at the fee that you might pay someone like Will, you're going to come out ahead because of the amount of time that it's going to save you. If you've been in the industry forever, well, then you know a number of people you can call to get suggestions. So, get calls all the time from folks that I've known for years, like, hey, I'm looking for someone who can do this, or I'm looking for someone that can do that. And then you can give them a referral. So typically that's another way, it's another thing that happens. And sometimes somebody calls me and then I'll say, call Will. He'll help you out.
Got it.
I mean, we
So,
maintained 12,000 co-packers.
There you
So,
go.
and importantly, it's not just finding someone, it's finding the right someone. I also have a database of over 300 co-packers that you'd rather go out of business than deal with those guys.
Yeah.
So,
It-
that's
there's online resources, there's lists, I'm on a list. I pay $50 a year to be on a list somewhere. It's probably worth it. But the issue with some of the websites are they don't necessarily vet the co-packers, right? So they might connect you, but in terms of finding the right fit, that's that's the biggest challenge. Because to Pete's point, I might make hummus, but I might not be able to make that kind of hummus, you know. And I think that's where a lot of folks spend a lot of their time is they actually get in front of a co-man and go two calls deep to find out, oh yeah, they can't make it. Well, how many times are you going to do that before you actually find the one that can make it, right? And if you can leapfrog that, you're gonna get to the end goal sooner.
got it. One of the other questions we had is around minimum order quantities and getting to that level. Especially from Monique and Mike, as you deal with some smaller. How should brands deal with that when your minimum is above, kind of the level they're comfortable with at this point?
For us, it really depends on the project. I may give you a lead to another co-packer depending on where you're at in your process. And then sometimes maybe the project is really, exciting and, it's something that's right down our wheelhouse and it just makes sense for us to negotiate a trial run. So maybe you can't hit my MOQ, but for the first run, we're going to call it a trial run and we're going to reduce that MOQ by half and get you what you need and see if you can make that successful. And then we move forward from there. I would say though, to be careful of that because onboarding is a long process and nobody likes to move co-packers and you don't want to waste your time or anybody else's time, so really knowing what you need and going to the right co-packer to begin with is helpful for the brand and the co-packer.
Right. Perfect. One of the questions we got, I think, is very interesting about advice on a contract, a manufacturing contract, or an agreement between, obviously you and the brand. Do you have any advice? Do you say, "Hey, we're only going to use my contract," or uh, any advice along that lines would be great.
Yeah, we've kind of worked through this over the years. So um, when we have a very large customer or a publicly traded customer, we're generally being forced to use their contract. For 95% of everybody else, we're using our contract. It again, we've got almost 1,000 leads a year. Generally, we're using our NDA as well, right? So we don't want to spend time negotiating like three sentences and redlining an NDA. We just want to get to the answer as soon as possible. Can we make it or can we not make it? And are we interested or are we not? So that's how we've thought about it. If you're starting out or a smaller brand, I would say it is not worth your time or money to go invest in drawing up an agreement because almost every co-man that runs any amount of volume is going to be making you use theirs.
Good.
That doesn't mean that it's not negotiable. That means
Correct.
that you're starting with paper.
Correct.
It's a good starting point. Got it. One last question, and then I think we're probably almost at time here. One of the questions, people have great recipes that they've developed in their test kitchen or home or wherever it is, that, it needs to be scaled up. It's a lot different when done in a home kitchen or even a commercial kitchen, moving to production manufacturing. How do you help brands work through that, or do they have to work through it themselves? How does that process work, if you can put a little meat around that bone?
Sure, let me jump into that. So we have a lot of formulas or recipes that are brought into us. And for us, we have a complete R&D team. So we have food scientists. We also have culinary chefs that are part of our staff. So we're going to take a look at somebody's homemade recipe or how they made it, and then we're going to factor in, we got to manufacture it, we've got to freeze it, it's got to sit on a retailer shelf for whatever the shelf life is, and then the homemaker takes it home and they've got to bake it. So we've got to factor in all those pieces so that we get as close to the original product that somebody walked in with when it goes through the whole supply chain. So our team typically ends up working on it. Sometimes that means that the components that are going into it are being worked on by our food scientists along with the component manufacturers' food scientists. So we have a number of groups that are working on that formula. So that typically is what happens. Sometimes a large CPG has done all that work and their food scientists have done the whole thing and they come in and they say, we know your manufacturing process. We've already gone through and tested all these raw materials. Here are our specs. Here's what we need to use. And then the only thing that really goes on at that point is, are the raw materials that they've spec'd out going to work on my line?
Right. Monique or Mike, any other additions there?
I think for us, we have a food scientist on staff as well, and we always like to make sure and do up a bench top using their formula. And if they don't have their own suppliers, it's always good to make sure that our sample is going to match what they brought in. So, I mean, that's how we handle it.
Wonderful. Well, hey guys, this has been very good. For those who are on the call, we will be sending out a recording of this to everybody, so that will come out later this week. Will, Monique, Pete, Mike, thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise with us and the Naturally Chicago Network. So, thank you all very much. Thanks for attending, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Bravo,
Thanks, Greg.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Jim.
Thanks, everyone.